Most people think they need to water their garden more. But the real problem is usually that the soil can't hold water in the first place. So the cycle keeps repeating. You water heavily, the soil dries out again, plants become stressed, leaves start drooping in the heat, and suddenly gardening starts feeling like a full-time job, especially during hot weather. Miss one day, and everything looks exhausted. But here's the strange part. In nature, healthy soil almost never dries out this fast. Forests survive extreme heat without daily watering. Wild plants grow without irrigation systems, and the ground underneath them stays cool, dark, and moist for surprisingly long periods. Because nature doesn't rely on constant watering, it relies on water retention. And that changes everything, because once your soil can actually store moisture properly, your entire garden starts behaving differently. Water lasts longer, roots grow deeper, plants become more resilient, and instead of constantly trying to rescue stressed plants, your garden starts supporting itself. That's the real secret behind self-watering gardens. Not special gadgets, not expensive systems, but creating conditions where the soil holds and recycles moisture naturally. Because the goal isn't watering more, it's losing less water in the first place. Most gardeners unknowingly create a system that wastes water. Bare soil exposed to direct sun, shallow watering, compacted ground that water can't properly penetrate. So even after watering, the moisture disappears quickly. Some evaporates from the surface almost immediately. Some runs off before soaking in. And some never reaches the deeper roots at all. That's why plants become dependent on constant watering. The soil never becomes stable, and when roots stay near the surface, plants become even more vulnerable to heat. It turns into a cycle. More watering, more stress, and more maintenance. But once you understand how healthy soil naturally manages moisture, you can completely change that system. Because the real goal isn't keeping the surface wet, it's creating deep moisture underground. That's where healthy gardens survive heat much better. The deeper layers stay cooler, moisture evaporates more slowly, and roots can access water long after the top layer looks dry. That's why experienced gardeners often water less than beginners. Not because they care less, but because their soil works differently. And one method, in particular, changes this faster than almost anything else. The trick starts with deep mulching. And this is where most gardens lose water without people realizing it. Most people think mulch is only there to make gardens look tidy. But underneath the surface, it completely changes how water behaves. Because exposed soil loses moisture incredibly fast. Sun hits the ground directly. Heat builds up. Water evaporates from the surface all day long. But mulch acts like insulation. It shields the soil from direct heat, slows evaporation dramatically, and helps the ground stay cooler for much longer. And that one change alone can completely transform how often you need to water. Because now, the moisture actually stays where your plants can use it. Here's how to do it properly. Apply a thick layer of organic mulch around your garden beds. Straw works well. Dry leaves work well. Wood chips work especially well around larger plants and pathways. Aim for roughly 5 to 10 centimeters deep, and most importantly, cover as much exposed soil as possible. Because every uncovered section becomes a place where moisture escapes. Once the soil stays protected consistently, watering frequency often drops dramatically. But here's what most people miss. Mulch alone doesn't create a self-watering system. The real transformation happens underground. Because if the soil underneath is compacted, hard, lifeless, water still won't move properly. It either sits near the surface or runs away completely. And this is where organic matter changes everything. Instead of water disappearing after rain, the soil begins absorbing and holding moisture like a sponge underneath the surface. It helps the ground absorb water more deeply, hold on to moisture longer, and slowly release it back to plant roots over time. Instead of water disappearing after a day or two, the soil starts storing it. That's the difference. Here's how to use it. Before planting, mix compost into the top layers of soil. Or even easier, spread compost on top before adding mulch. Worms and microorganisms slowly pull it downward naturally, and over time, the soil becomes darker, softer, and much better at holding moisture. Not because you're watering more, but because the soil finally stops wasting water. And here's what surprises most gardeners. Water problems usually begin long before plants actually look thirsty. That's what makes them difficult to notice. The underground system slowly becomes weaker and drier, while everything still looks normal from above. Then suddenly, plants begin wilting in heat. Growth slows down. People assume the weather is the problem, but often, the soil simply lost its ability to regulate moisture properly, and once that system breaks down, gardens become dependent on constant intervention. That's why building water-retaining soil matters so much. Because the healthier the underground system becomes, the less effort the garden needs from you. Another huge mistake: shallow watering. Most people water too often and not deeply enough. So the moisture stays near the top layer of soil, and roots respond to that. Healthy roots don't naturally stay trapped near the surface, searching for daily water. They move downward into cooler, more stable moisture underground. But when water only reaches the top layer, roots stay shallow too. That creates a dangerous system during hot weather, because the top layer dries out first, and once it does, the entire plant quickly becomes stressed. But deep watering changes root behavior completely. Instead of staying near the surface, roots begin growing downward towards stable moisture. That makes plants far more resilient during heat and dry periods. Here's the simple shift: water less often, but water more deeply. Give the moisture time to penetrate, especially if mulch is already protecting the surface. Because once deep moisture develops underground, plants stop depending on constant surface watering. This is where the self-watering effect really begins. Once moisture stays trapped underground, something remarkable starts happening. The soil becomes more stable overall. Worm activity increases. Organic matter breaks down more slowly. Microbial life stays active longer. And all of that improves moisture retention even further. The system starts reinforcing itself. That's why mature gardens often seem easier to maintain than new ones. The underground ecosystem has already developed. The soil stores water better. Roots reach deeper. Plants experience less stress. Everything becomes more efficient naturally. And suddenly, gardening stops feeling like constant rescue work. At that point, the garden stops reacting like dry, exposed ground and starts behaving more like a natural ecosystem. The best time to water is earlier than most people think. One simple trick experienced gardeners use is watering early in the morning instead of late afternoon. Because during cooler morning hours, more moisture actually reaches the soil. Less evaporates immediately into the air, and plants have time to absorb water before intense heat arrives. Combined with mulch and healthy soil, this becomes incredibly effective because instead of losing water all day, your garden starts conserving it naturally. Small adjustment, massive difference over time. And maybe the biggest shift of all is realizing that healthy gardens don't survive because they receive endless water. They survive because they waste very little of it. That's the real difference. Because once the soil becomes rich in organic matter, once the surface stays protected, once roots grow deeper, the garden starts becoming surprisingly self-sustaining. And that changes the entire experience of gardening. Because instead of fighting against the environment, you've built a system that works with it.